I suppose, that are changing in credit management. First of all, what's changing in credit management right now, apart from AI? Secondly, where is AI genuinely being used? And thirdly, the part that I care most about is how will that impact you personally, and should you be doing something about it? So, in terms of what's changing in credit management, there are four main areas that I see from, students that are coming to us and colleagues that are coming to us in terms of what's changing within the role. The first of these changes would be rising business expectations. So the role, and I think everybody will agree with me on this, the role of a credit controller, a credit manager, a credit director is vastly different to what the role was 10 years ago. And the role has developed and the role has changed. And now what we're finding is that AI and AI strategy is actually coming in on top of a shift that's already well underway. So, first of all, the rising business expectations. So, if you talk about, it's not just about DSO anymore, it's about immediate response and exposure. So how quickly can we take this order today? What is our real exposure within this group today? Which customers should we be focusing on to grow? And then they want that answer today. They don't want you to go off and do the research and come back next week. They want an answer and they want it today. So the expectation has been moved from being accurate to being fast and accurate. So that's the first change. So stakeholders, so if you report to a board, if you report to a credit director, you need to be able to give fast answers, clean data, and commercial thinking. So it's really moved from being very much collections driven, everything is about the past. It's about looking at that client in the past, to current thinking and really being able to nearly see into the future and predict. So that leads on to a couple of other things then as well. The importance of having clean data has never been more important. It is absolutely business critical. So having your customer master file, your product file, and your pricing file, if they're not clean and if they're not accurate, well, AI is simply not going to work. So you feed the wrong information in, a person will look at a ledger, a messy ledger, and they will know that that's a messy ledger. So you'll be a bit careful. You will double check things. You'll make sure everything is correct. AI doesn't do that. AI will simply swallow the information that you give it. It will go ahead. It'll do your calculations and it will come back with a very confident, well presented, wrong answer. So everything within your business depends on the data and the integrity of the data that you're putting into any system. So that is something that is becoming more and more critical in day-to-day operations. So the third change that we're seeing and what we're seeing people talk about is a shift from what was always traditionally regarded as an admin role. Credit control was always regarded as an admin role, and it is now shift to a commercial focus. So it's no longer measured on what the collecting that's overdue. It's now measured as a part of the business to enable profitable sales. So the question has changed from can we get paid to, is this business that we want at all? How well can we trust this business? And that's a commercial decision. It's a commercial decision and it's not a clerical one. So it really, really moved very dramatically from being very much an administrative role or regarded as an administrative role into a commercial role. And the skill set required to be able to cope with that has changed as well. And then the fourth major change as well is the responsibility associated with credit control and the responsibility associated with credit management. So what we find is credit is now, being handed ownership of the lead to cash cycle. So when you think about, from the lead straight through the sales process to the credit decision, the terms, the order, the invoice, the query, right through to cash in the bank, what we're seeing more and more and more, the person who is responsible for that cycle is the person who is sitting in credit management. So, you need, and this goes back to the data integrity then as well. If they've taken the order on the wrong terms, if the invoice is wrong in any way, if the pricing is wrong in any way, if there's queries that come in, the person who takes the flak for that and takes responsibility for that is the credit manager. So essentially, you're no longer responsible, as I said, for collections of orders that have already been processed and sales that have already been made. You are more and more responsible and make more of an impact on the bottom line of any company that credit management has ever done before. It has become business critical and a part of the critical process and a part of the bottom line. So that is the overall change in credit management. That is not something that's happened yesterday or the day before. This has been, started. AI has not started, yesterday or the day before. AI is actually around for years, even using Excel and using the different types of tools that are associated with Excel. It's been around for an awful lot longer than people actually realize. So this change in credit management is a shift that we have seen start and happen probably for the last 6 to 7 years, where essentially more roles and more responsibilities come under the credit management bracket, so to speak. So in terms of adopting AI and credit, so there's a few different things that we need to think about when we're talking about credit control. So AI is already reshaping credit control. It's reshaping everything. It's reshaping customer service. It's reshaping credit management. It's reshaping sales. It's reshaping HR. AI is now the end goal for most companies in terms of getting a proper system in place and making sure that we're using the advantages that AI brings. So the first thing that we need to think about as individuals when we're talking about bringing AI into our businesses and into our daily working lives, the first thing that you need to do is work on your mindset. So a lot of people are quite nervous about AI. If they don't know something inside out, like how does this work? What kind of sorcery is this? It's very, very difficult to get them to adopt an AI mindset. But if you have, AI coming into the workplace, the first thing that you need to do is look at your mindset. And what I mean by that is AI is designed to do the heavy lifting, and it's designed to do a lot of the thinking. So the very first thing that you need to do, this shift in your mindset has to come before you ever introduce any tool at all. You need to look at the process and you need to look at the daily work. And the first question that you need to ask is, can this be done faster? So an AI first mindset will ask, can it be done faster? And the second question then is, does a person need to be doing this at all? So if you start with the question, does a person need to be doing this at all? What you'll find is you'll be able to go through your department and person by person, you will find work within that department that nobody at all should be doing by hand in 2026. So I would say as your first step to adopting AI in credit is have a look at your department, have a look at the different individuals working within that department and decide, are there certain elements of their daily work or their weekly work that need to be done by a human being, or can it be automated and transferred to an AI tool? And I think that's your starting point. And I think you'll be very surprised by the results, because even on a day-to-day basis within my own organization here, I'm finding things that day by day, I'm starting to adopt that mindset more and more, and really asking the question now, before I do anything, can Claude or can ChatGPT do this faster and more effectively than I can? And the bottom line is, I'd say 9 times out of 10, yes, it can. So AI is there to do the heavy lifting. So the first step is work on your mindset and design your processes so that AI can be used to do the heavy lifting. So when I'd say the heavy lifting, I'm talking about any sort of administrative work with Excel. I mean, that is absolutely where Claude particularly shines. And that is where you should start. Start with that mindset shift. Excuse me. The next stage of adopting AI in credit then comes down to decisions. So AI can be particularly skilled when it comes to predictive decisions. And in credit management, I think we've all heard the running joke, where's my crystal ball so I'll know whether this customer is going to pay me next week or not. But a lot of predictive decisions can be made using AI by educating it to a point that it can do automated credit scoring, it can do the risk assessment, it can do the customer segmentation and payment predictions. Again, it needs to be based on clean data. We mentioned data integrity. It won't work unless your data is clean. So that's the first step for anybody. Make sure the information you are giving your tool is the correct information, and it can do wonderful things that would take a human being hours to achieve. The next thing then is something that a lot of companies are doing already, and that is smarter collections. So, we have processes in place now where we can optimize follow-ups. There are processes in place where we can actually automate follow-ups, which makes the actual list of collection calls that the person needs to do way less than it used to be. So your team is not going to chase everybody the same way, depending on the day of the month. So having a proper automated process in place where your customers are getting the friendly nudges as they go through the month means that there is less manual work for the credit controller to do when it's coming towards month end. So let's run through those again. So having an AI first mindset, should I be doing this or can AI do this? Predictive decisions, feeding your AI or your tool with good data integrity so that it actually can predict scenarios and can make predictions of decisions for you. And then that will lead to smarter collections. The next thing is so important. A mistake within fraud and compliance, it can shut down a company. So again, a lot of people would have that element of distrust. Can AI do this? But it can detect fraud. It can stay compliant. Fraud detection and regulatory compliance. It can spot patterns across transactions. It can build audit trails as you go rather than having this last minute panic afterwards where you're like, my God, did we put that in writing? Looking for email threads, looking for, correspondence thread. Staying compliant can be something that an AI tool in the background can do for you. And it's there if you need it at any stage. The next stage then would be AI, like AI customer service. That's already here. I do a lot of outbound calling, and if I'm contacting somebody whose phone number they've given to me, contact them, and then suddenly I get through to a voice that says you're through to such and such a number. Please leave your name and your number, and the person will then decide whether or not they want to take your call. That is AI. Chatbots, virtual assistants, all of these different tools and mechanisms are now being used. So in the credit management world, we use them for handling copies of invoices, statements, balance inquiries. I mean, that's around for a long time. You contact your phone company provider and they'll always have an option, click 3 to hear your balance. That's already there. It's already being used, the chatbots and the virtual assistants. So that's another layer of AI to look at within your organization. And then the last is, in terms of adopting AI in credit, you need to look at operational efficiency. So let's talk about those those really manual jobs, cash allocations, allocating your payments on a daily basis, your reconciliations, your reporting, your spreadsheet layer. If you want to call it that, it's your spreadsheet layer. It is your basic manual processes for making sure the manual admin associated with it. AI can do all of that. And I dare say, if the information is correct that is going into the tool, AI can do that faster and far more effectively than any of us sitting on this call can do. So Those are the different steps that you would need to take into account if you are looking to adopt AI in your credit management department. I meant to say at the beginning as well, everybody is on mute and I'm talking here, but if you have questions as we continue and as we go along, please put them in the chat. I love to get questions because I want everybody to get out of this session what they came to get out of it. So that's adopting AI and credit. So if we move on to the next part of the process, then it's like, so where does that leave us? It's AI essentially is taking over the transactional work. So where does that leave credit professionals? Some credit professionals that would have been in, their roles for years and years and years. So there's two. I won't, soften this. There is certainly going to be changes, and that applies to anybody that has a large workload of manual tasks within their office environment. That's not just credit management. That is certainly in customer service, and sales as well. When you think about it, there's AI tools in all of these departments now. It'll leave you in one of two places. It'll either leave you left behind, where you will stick with how you've always done it, staying in administration, staying in processing. It means that you're leaving yourself open for your role to be quite easily automated, and nobody wants that. It becomes very hard to justify the role. Employers now, again, if you look at the world the way it is today, the cost of living, I think there's a cost of living crisis in nearly every country. But the majority of the people that I would speak to would be from Ireland. We're certainly in the middle of a cost of living crisis here, which therefore means business owners are looking for ways to, automate as many processes as possible and to hire as few people as possible. And that is, really, what they should be doing. So if you are left behind, you will stay in admin, you will be easy to automate, harder to justify your role, but mainly you react to problems after they've happened and after they've occurred. You've got no sort of view on the future or no predictive decision making. So if you choose not to be left behind, if you really want to step up and take control of this and make this your own, you need to be moving into a more commercial and more strategic work. So you need to be not just looking at your list of customers and how much do I need to collect this week. You need to be looking at the patterns that AI will show you and decide, where is that best business and make more strategic decisions and work closer with other departments within the organization in order to make those decisions. You should be leading AI adoption in the team. If it's something that's going to come anyway, take control of it. Take control of it and be an early adopter and know about it and use it. You need to push forward to owning the lead to cash cycle. Now, that doesn't mean that you start pushing in on somebody else's job, but what it does mean is that you proactively step up to take on more of a holistic view on your customers and make sure that you're making good, well-informed, credit-managed decisions. And then what all of these steps will lead to is it will help to prevent problems before they arise. So, if you're making predictions based on the information that you put into an AI tool, you are far more equipped to decide what kind of business the company should be pursuing in the future. So AI does not remove the credit professional, but it does raise the bar for what a credit professional should be. And those are the two areas there. So I would sincerely hope, and I think everybody on this call it fits into the steps up bracket, because you wouldn't be on this call if you want to be left behind. You want to be in the know. You want to take control of this, and you want to be an early adopter of this so you know how it works and you're using AI to be better. And that's what we all want. So what kind of skill set are we looking at in order to be that will set you apart and make sure that you remain safe within your organization and indeed driving change within your organization. So the first change, and I keep talking about this again, is commercial and strategic credit management. You will become more of an authority on your customer base than any of your sales colleagues will, because you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. A salesperson will go and make a sale and boom, they're gone. They're gone to the next customer. That's very, very different for credit management. It's very, very different for the credit controller. So as you adopt a more strategic approach, it will become more commercially focused, and that then makes you absolutely invaluable to any organization because your credit decisions link you to profit, cash flow, and most importantly, growth. You need to become confident of using data, reporting, and AI tools. So I would even suggest, if there's people on this call that are using Excel, that's one thing. But a lot of the tools that are currently being used on a day-to-day basis already have dashboards, they have models, and people don't use them. They're afraid to use them, and they're not quite sure what they're doing. Turn on the dashboards and see what information your system is giving you. Again, make sure your data is clean. The next skill that would set you apart is being sharper in terms of risk assessment and decisioning. So being able to judge exposure very quickly, being able to, defend your decision on that exposure. And that again goes back to skill set number one. Any decisions that you make and defend with regards exposure and risk assessment and making sure that you're working with the right accounts, they all translate back to the profit and the growth of the company. So don't ever be afraid to defend your decision around exposure and exposure of the company. Then the next skill set is negotiation, influence, and stakeholder management. So you need to be able to manage just the very same as we've always had to do. We've always had to manage the demands of the business owner against the demands of the salespeople, against the demands of customer service. Credit management and people in credit management have always been plate spinners. And, that's not going to go away just because we've got AI tools in place. We really do need to be able to negotiate and influence where the business goes. And you need to be able to demonstrate with figures and demonstrate with good decision making across sales, finance, and customers. And then leadership of the credit function and its technology. Lead your team. And if you are, a team member reporting into a manager, try a pilot, get buy-in from your manager that you're going to be able to save time by using these tools and learn to use these tools and be better at your job. Don't be led, but be a leader and drive it forward. So, it's built on purpose, not by accident. Don't let AI take you over. You take it over, and then you use it on your on a day-to-day basis. So 3 things that you can start doing today. And I thought long and really hard about this because AI is such a vast, vast area. It is so difficult. Do I talk about Claude? Do I talk about ChatGPT? Do I talk about accounting systems that may already have some of these AI tools in there? If I decided to take an approach like that, out of the 60 odd people that are on this call, 2 of them might be familiar with what I'm talking about, and the other 58 are sitting there wondering what I'm talking about. So let's keep it really, really general to a certain degree, general but very, very relevant. So the first thing that you need to do is clean your data. So I would like to know how many people on this call, I'm not asking you to say yes or no, but in your ledger today, are there any people who would have frequent duplicates? So you've got a company in there and it's the same company, but they're in there under 3 different names, for example. That happens so often. so often. So clean your data, because you know that's a mistake. You know that you need to consolidate those invoices at the end of the month, but AI is not going to know that. So again, starting today, this week even, run a duplicate check on your customers and take out your duplicates. Clean your data. And then the next thing that I would do is look at every member of your team. And if you don't have a team, we'll say working or reporting to you, look at your own daily tasks and look at them very, very skeptically, and even note them down. And what you should do is you should pick out of all of those tasks, what is the one single task here that you repeat the most? And then you look at that particular process and have a look and see if it can be automated. That single one repeated task over and over and over again. Can that one task be automated? You start with one task. You don't adopt an entire AI program in a day. You'll make a complete mess. You will be stressed to the eyeballs. You need to start with one process and then you build it layer by layer by layer. And then the third thing that you do is you stay the decision maker. And this is the key thing to remember. You need to remain the decision maker at all times. AI can make recommendations, it can spot patterns, it can spot trends, but ultimately, in terms of making a decision on policies with your customers, credit limits, and so on, you should be the one that is the ultimate decision maker, because AI can make mistakes. And if AI makes a mistake, ultimately it is your mistake. So making sure that you get AI to do all of your heavy lifting, but you remain the decision maker. That is what you need to do. So clean your data first, start with one process, and then move on to remaining in that decision-making capacity. So essentially, look, I really wanted to bring this down to our diploma. AI, as I said, is an incredibly vast area. And if you want to take control of AI before it takes control of you, I would suggest you look at the diploma in credit management. It is comprehensive, it's practical, it's current, and it teaches you and gives you all the tools that you need to bring it into your workplace and bring it in step by step and level by level in order to be better at your job. And that is the only way that we will remain relevant within our organizations, is that if we stay with the times. So if anybody is interested in the diploma, please do pop a message through on the chat. But for the moment, I will open the floor to questions. And I think somebody has already sent a question in. So how can I leverage AI and automation to increase the productivity and effectiveness of my collections team as the business scales, given that the number of collections responsibilities and products has doubled while headcount is expected to remain unchanged? We currently use RPA to automate comms that we send out to our customers. However, aside RPA, what other tools can we use in automating dialer files for chasing overdue arrears? So the two things that you can do there, the very first thing that I would say is look at your automated reminders. If your automated reminders are not giving you the results that you need, I would suggest, Chica, you look at what the wording of those is. I get an awful lot of reminders coming in from different things, and I know straight away that they're a reminder and they are a system automated reminder and not a person. And if truth be told, I immediately delete them. So you need to certainly automate your processes and automate your reminders, but that doesn't mean that they can't be good quality reminders as well. So again, look at the quality of the reminders that are actually going out. The next thing then that I would look at doing, and I did something very similar quite recently, is look at your team's ability to prioritize the calls. So I sent out a free tool to the ICNT community this week, which was a free prioritization tool, which was very, very simple. And what it did was you feed your ledger into it, and it will score your ledger based on the value of the debt, the length of time that it's outstanding, and there was a third pillar as well, and I actually can't remember what it was, but it scored each customer on a level of okay, needs a call, critical, and so on. So I would say that perhaps the team need a little bit of training in terms of prioritization and maybe working on the prioritizing of the most important calls as they become important. So that's the way I would answer that question. It would be look at the automations that you've got. Maybe they need to be revised, and then look at prioritization of your follow-up calls. Does anybody else have any other questions or any other feedback on the session? Well, guys, I really do appreciate you coming online, particularly around lunchtime. I hope you got something from it. We will be sending out the recording to everybody afterwards. Again, there was no technical tools in here. If anybody wants more information about technical tools, please do come back to me. We do have that information. It is just not appropriate information for a lunchtime webinar. If anybody wants to look at the diploma, I mean, guys, everybody on this call, you're on the call because you want to learn. That's the bottom line. You want to learn and you want to be better. So you need a proper qualification. You need to go forward and do your diploma in credit management with AI. This will enable you to stay relevant in AI and stay relevant in credit management. So thank you very much, everybody. And I will be in touch very soon with the recording. And thanks a million for your time. Thank you very much. Chica, we will have a conversation separately, I think, and I can certainly point you in the direction of some tools that might be helpful.
Thank you, Katrina. It would be
No
really
problem at all. No problem.
helpful.
Okay, guys, I'm going to shut down the meeting now. I'm going to stop the recording. Lovely to see you all and have a great day.